We are back with another Vending Series style base gem deck. This time it's a request from Reginald97. He wanted to see a fossil box style deck, and I even mentioned in my What We Missed Out On video for the Vending Series that this gave fossil Pokemon a lot more tools to actually work with. There's one problem though. The basic Pokemon that fossil box is based around is not a basic Pokemon when it is in your hand, so you do have to draw a lot of the focus of the deck away from fossils just to make it playable on turn one. Not even then, opening hand. Your opponent's just going to mulligan over and over again if you don't fill out this deck with a lot of other basic Pokemon to support the fossils, so it's not as solely focused on fossils as I wish it could be, but I think I did a decent job with the task I was given. Just to review, let's go over some of the extra fossil tools that the Vending Series did give us, starting with this Kabuto. Some of my favorite artwork from the Vending Series is this card right here. But let's look at the Pokemon Power Fossilize, which basically lets you devolution spray one of your own fossil Pokemon, which is going to give you some kind of maximum use out of those mysterious fossils, since you can only run a playset in your deck if you've got an Aerodactyl or an Omanyte out on the field, and that's not quite what you need for this point in the game anymore. You want to devolve and then re-evolve into something else, like maybe another one of these Kabuto. You can do that with this ability. The problem is it's off of a coin flip, which really hurts the usability, which is a shame because Sharp Claws is a decent attack, a potential 40 damage off of 2 colorless, but overall, it's a pretty weak card, and you do have to make some room for other more technical fossil cards that actually contribute to the overall point of the deck. So this Kabuto is not a card that we will be using in this build of Fossil Box. I just want to throw out there that it is available. Next is the Prehistoric Dream Omanyte, which lets you flip a coin. If heads, then any damage done by any of your fossil Pokemon this turn gets a little plus power to it. It's basically flip a coin for a plus power as long as this Omanyte is out on the field. It is stackable, so if you've got a couple of these, you could potentially be adding 20 damage even to this Omanyte as it attacks. And, 20 damage off of a double colorless isn't great. The potential to add damage to that off of a coin flip is a little better, so this is a card that will see some use today. The other Omanyte we'll be using has Fossil Guidance, which is also off of a coin flip. You can take one mysterious fossil from your discard pile and put it right into your hand. That way you can actually recycle the main basic Pokemon of this deck over and over again, potentially, as long as you hit those coin flips. And 50 HP on a stage 1, not great. Hitting for a guaranteed 30 off of 2 energy is actually pretty good, and this runs well with the other fossil cards we've looked at because all of those cards use colorless energy to attack, so it is feasible to run both. Including Aerodactyl, which is probably the best fossil attacker in base gym, really, as far as I know. Dealing 40 damage on turn 2 with Spiral Attack for 3 colorless energy. You're dealing fighting type damage to your opponent without having to include any fighting energy in the deck. I mean, it's no Hitmonchan, but you have to remember too, with the other tools you have, you can actually de-evolve Aerodactyl back into a mysterious fossil when it's got a bunch of damage on it. Discard that mysterious fossil. Your opponent doesn't get a prize from any of that damage. Use Omanyte's Fossil Guidance to get that mysterious fossil right back into your hand. Play it onto the field. You've essentially got a free scoop up just from your Pokemon abilities if you hit the coin flips right. And among all of these cards, you've got some decent Pokemon powers that are going to be useful just for recycling and adding damage, on top of a pair of decent chunk attackers that are going to be able to do 30-40 damage to your opponent, like I said, in these chunks, but also with the potential to get those free plus powers off of an Omanyte. And the very last card I want to talk about is the most important card in this deck, and the only reason it runs somewhat fluidly, which is Fossil Excavation. You may search your deck for a mysterious fossil, or you can take a mysterious fossil out of your discard pile, put it into your hand. So it's a rapid search card as well as a recycling card, which is super important for this deck. It really helps make sure that you have a mysterious fossil on the field turn 1 or turn 2. That way you can get evolved up as quickly as possible. If you're not evolving these things, they're just going to get discarded. But also an enormous help mid to late game because you're able to recycle these cards re-evolve up into whichever fossil stage ones you need at that moment. Basically, for this deck to work at all, you need fossils at the exact moment that you need them, and that's what this card does. It can get them from anywhere, except for your prizes. Now that you're caught up on all the tools and their translations, let's get into what the actual build is. What's this deck look like? Of course, we will be starting this build off with a full playset of Mysterious Fossil. Like I said, it doesn't count as a basic Pokemon until it's actually on the field, so it is a little hard to deal with early game, especially if you draw one of those perfect hands and can't really do anything because of Mysterious Fossil, but it can serve as a pretty decent stall card early on too. You know, you can get it knocked out, your opponent's not taking prizes, you know you have modes in the deck to actually get them back, so it does have that going for it. On top of that, I'm going to be playing 3 of those Aerodactyl. They're going to be the main attacker. You know, that 40 damage on turn 2 is pretty nice and can be pretty consistent with this deck given the right setup. Next to that is going to be 2 copies of the Prehistoric Dream Omanyte that can get you the free plus power off of a coin flip. So if you've got 2 of them on your bench, maybe you've got another Mysterious Fossil that you've evolved into an Aerodactyl, then, you know, you can potentially get that free 20 damage. It's most likely going to be 10. If it's me playing, it's most likely going to be 0 every turn. And then we're going to be running one of those Recycling Omanyte as well, just so you can get those Mysterious Fossils back over and over and over again. Attack with it from time to time if your opponent has a Pokemon that's weak to water. For this deck to function, you do have to do quite a bit of recycling though. I mean, we've got 4 fossils and running 5 Pokemon that evolve from those fossils, so you really have to be technical, use your best gameplay judgment for what needs to hit the field when. On top of that, you know, like I mentioned in the intro, you do have to fill out the deck a little bit to, you know, just have some basic Pokemon to go. So the 5 I picked for that were Scyther and Lickitung. Scyther just because it's a great damage sponge. You can get off some decent attacks with it, you know, because this deck is going to be running double colorless energy for Aerodactyl anyway. Lickitung, one of the best bulky chip attackers in the entire game, if not just, you know, one of the best basic Pokemon in this format. 3 copies of Fossil Excavation, which, you know, that seems like a must-have full playset, but I found that 3 was a good number. If that makes you a little uncomfortable, I'd go ahead and chuck another one in there just to be safe. It is kind of the core of what makes this deck run. Professor Oak, just for the draw power. 3 copies of Erica for the same reason. Just the more, you know, I play within vending format, I find I like Erica more than Bill or Oak. So that's just my preference in draw power. Feel free to go with whatever you want to. So something else I didn't mention earlier about Aerodactyl is that attack does deal 40 damage, which is going to hit Kangaskhan, Lickitung pretty hard, but it's also going to deal 10 damage to itself. Defender is going to prevent that damage, and it's going to stick around after you attack and prevent some more damage that your opponent could be dealing to you. So Defender is another one of those just like no-brainers for this deck. Full playset there, full playset of plus power. That way, if you are up against a Lickitung or a Kangaskhan and you really need to deal that extra 10 damage just to get the Oko from Aerodactyl, you got those plus powers in there just as backup for if you're as bad at hitting coin flips as I am off of those Omanytes. This deck is very susceptible to Gust of Wind and energy removals, so that's why there's a full playset of Lass in here to help try to control the game board just a little bit. Once you've got all of your draw power out of the way, you've got the cards you need in your hand already Pokemon wise. Just as some situational 2-offs, I've got Warp Point to help move your own Pokemon around as well as your opponent, Scoop Up to avoid giving your opponent those knockouts and just get the Pokemon back into your hand. You've got enough resources to recycle the Mysterious Fossils, so getting those fossil Pokemon back into your hand is a pretty nice tool to have in Scoop Up. Gust of Wind, so you can pull out those Pokemon that are weak to fighting or water, sometimes grass, and actually get some Okos here and there throughout games. It's not always going to be a given, but a couple copies of Item Finder as well, just to recycle some of these very helpful cards. Sometimes you're going to use an Item Finder just to get a Fossil Excavation, just to get a Mysterious Fossil, which is fine. You could do the same by just getting the Mysterious Fossil itself with Item Finder. It's just kind of like a backup. And then a no removal gem, not only to serve the purpose of being a counter gem, but also just to help out with keeping those double colorless energies attached where you need them. because that's going to be another core part of this deck, is actually getting those DCEs, getting them attached on turn 2 to either an Aerodactyl or a Scyther, depending on what you're attacking with, and just keeping them there. That way you can continue to attack and focus on other parts of the game that need your attention, like how you actually utilize all your trainers. Filled out the rest of the deck with some water energy and a couple of grass for Scyther. Gameplay wise, this deck does feel a little crowded, and you know, that is just purely because you have so many different stage 1s coming from the same basic Pokemon that isn't even a basic Pokemon. I mean, your ideal start to the game is a Scyther in the active position. You're able to get a Mysterious Fossil into your hand, down onto your bench turn 1, hopefully more than one Mysterious Fossil. That way on turn 2, you can actually just get all of the stage 1s that you need, evolve up those Mysterious Fossils, free retreat with Scyther into an Aerodactyl, go ahead and use whatever bonuses you have, maybe Coin Flip on Omanyte for that extra damage. Hopefully get the double colorless energy that you need, get a Defender on Aerodactyl, and just start swinging for 40 or 50 without doing any damage to yourself early game. Try to build up momentum, because from there it's kind of just downhill chaos. You still have access to all of your Fossilmons from Fossil Set, but overall I didn't really find any of their abilities or utility in the deck as useful as those Vending Series cards. The Fossil Aerodactyl is pretty counterproductive to what you're trying to do with the deck, and including an Omastar in the deck would just crowd it up even more, I think. Yeah, you could protect those Omanytes a little better by boosting them up with that extra HP, but I don't know. I do want to hear your thoughts down in the comments. Let me know if there was some part of Fossil Box that I was just missing out on and did not think of, or let me know what adjustments you would make. Let me know if you've ever had any luck with this deck in something like the Game Boy game. As always, thanks for watching. Social media links are down in the description. One final note I do want to make about Fossil Excavation is that this artwork looks like a mix between a face hugger and the tip of a penis. And that is all I can think about when I look at this card. Bye!